Welcome everyone. This video is a case study of an eTapestry MailChimp integration with Zapier. We're excited to explore this topic with you, so thanks for watching. I'm Allie, an eTapestry consultant at Sidekick Solutions. Sidekick Solutions is a Blackbaud consulting partner and consulting firm that specializes in Blackbaud eTapestry software. We help new and existing users integrate eTapestry with their everyday work and procedures. In this video, we'll be covering how National Forest Foundation came to explore an automated solution to their marketing data management challenges, how in working collaboratively, we developed an automated solution with them to maintain up-to-date subscribers and segments in MailChimp, including current donor giving history from eTapestry, and the outcomes the National Forest Foundation have seen as a result of these integrations. We're excited to share this story as we often get asked how integrations work in real settings, real organizations, day-to-day. In this video, we'll demonstrate how an integration can be designed and customized to a unique workflow. And we'll be walking you through the National Forest Foundation solution because it's a great example of how to capture up-to-date donor data for subscribers in MailChimp, how to use tags to track subscriber interests and categories, and how to maintain active and lapsed donor segments with automated daily updates of segment conditions. All right, so let's dive in. So the National Forest Foundation, who's the subject of our case study today, they were created with a simple mission: to bring people together to restore and enhance the National Forests and Grasslands of the United States. Working on behalf of the American public, the National Forest Foundation leads forest conservation efforts and promotes responsible recreation. And in 2019, donors and volunteers helped the National Forest Foundation plant more than 5 million trees across 18 states and 18,000 acres in support of forest restoration. The National Forest Foundation came to us with an initiative to improve their marketing efforts and enhance their donor cultivation work. They wanted more information about their donors in MailChimp so they could better communicate with a growing constituent base. Plus, importing donor data before sending email campaigns was becoming too cumbersome as goals for online campaigns and emails grew. And they were already familiar with Zapier and what was possible with integrations. They just needed some guidance to get the right solution in place. So, when we heard this, we realized there was an opportunity here to automate. The opportunity we saw for them was to set up an automated workflow to move new or updated eTapestry donor data directly into MailChimp to update subscribers, tags, and segments in real time. And to do this, we needed an intermediary, a bridge to connect the two platforms, Zapier. The Zapier platform is a modern tool for automating workflows between one or more apps. It's a bridge between systems, one that can be used to connect over 1,500 apps, which means it's a true one-to-many solution. By connecting eTapestry to Zapier, you get access to integrations with multiple apps in a single platform. Zapier also provides visibility and transparency to see how your integrations are running, including successful tasks and errors. With Zapier, you don't need a developer to monitor and manage an integration. Zapier also allows you to build integration with custom mapping for any use case, so you aren't stuck with a cookie-cutter integration that doesn't match your workflow. To help eTapestry customers take full advantage of Zapier integration, Sidekick Solutions developed an eTapestry module. We call that module the eTapestry API wrapper, or wrapper for short. The wrapper is an adapter for eTapestry that we connected to Zapier, providing a direct connection between the two systems and setting eTapestry up as one of the most integration-ready donor management platforms on the market. In this case study, however, we'll be taking a look at an alternate approach to connecting eTapestry to Zapier, email parsing with a tool called Mailparser. Not all eTapestry fields are available over the API, which means that they are also not available in the wrapper module connected to Zapier. For the National Forest Foundation, that limitation was a barrier to what they wanted to achieve. Luckily, there are other ways to connect your eTapestry data to Zapier. In this case, we used eTapestry scheduled reports to export the data we needed every day and send it to a separate tool called Mailparser. Mailparser is an email parser software, and we can use it to parse the daily report and send each row of data to Zapier, from where we can then take action on that data using any of the 1,500 or more applications connected to Zapier. For National Forest Foundation, of course, we connected that data to MailChimp. So let's dive into the specifics. The first automated solution we designed for National Forest Foundation was to create and update MailChimp subscribers based on donor activity in eTapestry. We started the project with a discovery phase to learn what National Forest Foundation needed when it came to maintaining donor profiles in their MailChimp audience. We learned they needed a full view of donor history in MailChimp. This meant eTapestry summary fields for lifetime giving, first, last, and largest gifts. And since these fields are only available in eTapestry reports, not in the eTapestry API wrapper, we had to look at other ways to get the data out of eTapestry and into Zapier. They also needed to sync all emails on a donor's persona. The reason for this was that eTapestry accounts with multiple emails presented a data quality concern. We first looked at syncing only the first email on a persona, but what if that email changed in eTapestry? It wouldn't automatically change in MailChimp as well, and so we had a disconnect there. In order to ensure that all subscribers always had up-to-date donor history, we needed to sync all emails. And so we looked at developing a workflow that would split apart those emails so we could sync a single account with many subscribers in MailChimp. Now, we also needed a solution that would allow them to track multiple tags per subscriber. So National Forest Foundation in particular had a large number of funds. They also wanted to sync up campaigns and UTM codes, specifically UTM medium values that they're tracking for online donations. And they wanted to send all of those as tags into MailChimp and tag each subscriber based on these donation criteria. Our solution for this, for the workflow, was to use Zapier paths and code steps to look up tag IDs by tag name or create a new tag if no match was found. And we'll look at that in detail a little bit later. So additionally, we learned that the segments they were looking for would require daily updates to maintain live lists. And so our solution for that is actually a second automated workflow that uses custom code to update segment conditions on a daily basis. And we're going to look into that as well. Finally, they had historical data that wasn't in MailChimp yet, and they needed to transfer this data over into MailChimp to bring that system up to date and sync the two systems before we could turn on an automated solution to maintain ongoing updates. Now, the integration workflow that we designed in Zapier to solve these challenges looked like this. So we started with a Mailparser, new email parsed in Mailparser. And actually before this are some steps with eTapestry scheduled report. So if we take this 2 steps before, we actually start with an eTapestry scheduled report that's scheduled daily, pushes data to Mailparser where it's parsed, and then Zapier comes in, and that email is parsed in Mailparser, and that triggers this workflow. Second step is to use a code step to split the incoming donations on unique email. Next, we trigger a separate workflow based on each unique email address for the donations that had come in from eTapestry. From there, we're going to add and update each subscriber and write a donor profile to that subscriber contact record. Then we have a Google Sheet step to look up tag name for the fund on the donation. And then we have 3 paths that run conditionally, depending on whether the donation had a matching fund tag. In the lookup table, had a campaign selected on the gift, or had a UTM medium on the gift. And from there, for each of those paths, we would git create the tag ID with a custom code step, and then add a tag to the subscriber for that fund, campaign, or UTM medium. Now, there are 4 tools required to implement this workflow. First one is an eTapestry scheduled report. That should come with your eTapestry subscription. The report we set up to be triggered off of yesterday's donation data. So essentially every day we have this scheduled report running with yesterday's donations. Secondly, you need Mailparser IO, which is a separate tool. You need a configured inbox that can be set up to parse an email attachment, in this case a scheduled report. Then you need a Zapier account with a subscription plan that allows for premium apps and paths, and a Google Sheet lookup table for tag name. Now, as I mentioned before, the workflow starts before the data hits Zapier, and the first step in that is the Tapestry scheduled report. To set this up, we needed a query of all gifts that we wanted to update donor profiles in MailChimp, all gifts that were created yesterday. Then we'd run that query with a report that includes columns for donation data, name, email, and summary fields, including first and last gift, date and amount, lifetime giving totals, largest gift date and amount. And running the report with the query, we can schedule it to export to Excel daily, every day, and send to a unique email address that we get from setting up our Mailparser inbox. Now, the Mailparser inbox is going to provide us with that unique email address, like I mentioned. In that inbox, we do have to set up the parsing rules. Mailparser specifically supports parsing rows in an Excel attachment, which is why we chose the Mailparser tool. And once you've set up your inbox, you'll get that address and you can schedule your report to that address. And so with the workflow, every day the scheduled report runs, it hits the Mailparser inbox, which parses each unique row and sends each row to Zapier to trigger the rest of the workflow. The first step in the workflow in Zapier is a trigger on new email parsed in Mailparser. Now, it doesn't trigger just one time for the email. It actually triggers per row in your scheduled report that was parsed from Mailparser. When we set up this trigger, we select the inbox that we created. In this case, we called it eTapestry to MailChimp, which is parsing our scheduled report. Now, the next action that we take is to split the incoming data on email. We used a custom Python code step to do this, and essentially what's happening in this code step is that if a donation was made by a donor who had multiple email addresses on their profile, this step would trigger all the remaining steps in our workflow beyond this one time per email address found. So instead of just triggering once for the donation from the donor, so that one row in the Excel file we sent to Mailparser, we actually want it to trigger on each unique email for that donation. So in order to do that, we needed this code step. This step is what allows us to sync up a single donor account in eTapestry with multiple subscribers in MailChimp. Now, the next step in the workflow is actually the trigger of a new Zap. And we needed this to start a new workflow that would happen per every unique email parsed in the last split by email code step. So instead of triggering off every unique row, which is what the last two steps did, this is going to trigger off of each unique email for the donation that was in the scheduled report. So essentially every donor data point sent per split email in the last action is captured in this step, triggering all of the following actions. And we do this with Zapier's webhook catch hook trigger event. Now we can get to our first action in MailChimp itself. And the first of those is to add or update a subscriber in MailChimp. This action first searches for an existing subscriber by email. And if one is found, the subscriber profile is updated with the donor giving history fields that got sent over from the Tapestry scheduled report. If one is not found, then we create a new subscriber, again with their associated giving history data from eTapestry. From there, we wanted to add tags to the subscriber profiles in MailChimp based on their donation. For fund, specifically, we only want to tag the subscriber if the donor gave to a specific fund that National Forest Foundation had indicated was valuable for segmenting their email campaigns. So this meant that we needed conditional rules so that not all subscribers that go through the workflow have a fund tag added to their subscriber contact in MailChimp. So to do this, we needed to set up those conditional rules, and we did that with a lookup table in another third-party app, in this case, Google Sheets. The lookup table had a list of values that might be assigned to a donation, and then in this case, fund, and then for each fund, we have the tag name in MailChimp we want to assign if that fund was present on the gift. If the fund value was not found in the lookup table, then this step would return a blank. But if we do look up for, the donation comes through and it has fund value A and we find it in the list, then we're going to be able to pull on the associated tag name that we listed in that same row. So that's what this step allows us to do. At this point, we needed Zapier paths because we wanted to add the subscriber to as many as 3 tags, depending on the data on their recent donation. So path A is to add a fund tag if a tag name was found for that fund in the lookup table, the prior step. Path B is to add a campaign tag if a campaign was assigned to the donation. And then path C is to add a UTM medium tag if a UTM medium was entered in the custom field on the donation. So these paths run simultaneously, each one only triggered if the filter conditions are met. This means that any given subscriber may be added to 0 to 3 tags based on the specifics of their donation that's triggering this workflow. So let's take a look at path A in more detail. We set up path A to only run if tag name for the fund on the donation was found in the Google Sheet lookup table. Additionally, we only want to run path A if the subscriber was found in MailChimp and is actively subscribed to the list. Because we could have looked up an email for a donor and found that they were unsubscribed or that they were archived in the audience, in which case we can't assign a tag, and so we don't want to continue with this path. So if these conditions are met, again, that the tag name's there, and that the subscriber is active, then the workflow continues. The next step in the workflow for the fund path is to use the tag name found in the lookup table in a custom Python code step to search for an existing tag in MailChimp by that name, and if found, return the tag's ID, and if not found, create a new tag for that fund and return the tag's ID. This step was essential because we had so many funds, but also because MailChimp's add tag Zapier action requires tag ID to add a tag to a subscriber. And that's our next step, to add a tag to the subscriber in MailChimp, which we're able to do associating the tag we're adding with the subscriber by their email address. And you can see in this screenshot that we're pulling on the ID that we found in the prior step with the code step, and we're pulling on the email that was pulled in from eTapestry. The second automated solution we introduced for this workflow actually updates MailChimp segment conditions every day. So National Forest Foundation wanted active and lapsed donor segments based on last gift date. So for example, active would include all subscribers with the last gift date in the last year. Now, unfortunately, we discovered that MailChimp segment conditions presented some limitations. In order to set up segments based on date, we had to use a static date, like January 1st, 2019, because there were no dynamic ranges like last 365 days or last 7 days available for segments in MailChimp. So this meant that National Forest Foundation staff would need to update the segment date conditions manually before the list would be considered current, meaning they'd have to do these updates maybe monthly or at least any time before they sent an email. So we actually saw this as another opportunity to automate a manual repetitive task. So instead of manually updating the date in the segment before sending the segment an email, we could set up an automated workflow in Zapier triggered every day to update the date criteria used to define the donor segments. So essentially just update the segment conditions in MailChimp and do that every day. So here's what that workflow ultimately looked like. Every day, 3 code steps are triggered to update MailChimp segment conditions, maintaining current criteria for segments of active donors in the last 365 days, donors with last gift date between 1 and 2 years ago, and donors with no gift in the last 2 years. Run daily, these segments continue to remain current, drawing on the data integrated from eTapestry in our first automated solution, without anyone needing to remember to update them. This workflow is triggered every day by an application called Schedule by Zapier, set to trigger daily at 1 a.m. Each code step to update a segment replaces the date criteria that's currently in MailChimp with a new date that's a set number of days away from today. So for the active donor segment, that meant updating the condition to include subscribers with a last gift date after today's date minus 365 days. For the 1-year lapsed donor segment, that meant updating 2 conditions so that all donors with a last gift date before today's date minus 365 days, and after today's date, minus 731 days, would be included. And then for the 2-year lapsed donor segment, the workflow updated the condition so that all donors with a last gift date before today's date, minus 730 days, would be included. And we did all of these updates daily with these 3 separate code steps, 1 per segment, where we updated the segment conditions. Combined, these 2 automated solutions maintain live segments in MailChimp based on synced donor data between eTapestry and MailChimp. Now, integrations are never 100% automated, meaning you can't set it and forget it. At least not all the time. Some ongoing maintenance is always going to be required to ensure the integration is running smoothly and that data is being pushed through the workflow accurately. For these solutions, National Forest Foundation updates their tag name lookup table. Specifically, they do this when the name of the value that's in the lookup table changes in eTapestry or in MailChimp. Say like they rename a fund or they rename a tag in MailChimp. Those changes would need to be reflected in the lookup table. They're also going to update that table when a new value in eTapestry is created. Again, that they're either trying to look up or assign in MailChimp. Additionally, the eTapestry scheduled report has to be extended annually. Scheduled reports are only valid for a year, after which they will automatically turn off. So before the report expires, a user has to update the scheduled item to extend the valid from date range. The integrations also require ongoing monitoring of tasks in Zapier. This includes reviewing and resolving errors. For this workflow, the most common error occurs when a donor's email matches to a contact in MailChimp, but that contact is actually unsubscribed. In that case, you get an error, but it isn't really an error, as we don't want to be updating that contact in MailChimp anyway. So in this case, the integration doesn't resubscribe them. Their profile is not updated and no tags for their donations are added. And you do get an error email, but no action is needed because these errors can be ignored because it's doing exactly what we want it to do, not updating these contacts. Now, occasionally there is the chance that a critical error could happen, and so it needs to be monitored for. That error would be that there's a possibility for the scheduled report to become expired or disabled. And if that were to happen, no data would push through the workflow. So in monitoring this integration, you're looking for maybe several days in which no data has come across into MailChimp. And if that were to happen, you'd need to flag it and address it immediately. And just re-enabling the scheduled report is going to get it back up and running. These integration solutions have set the National Forest Foundation up with live donor data in MailChimp for easy segmentation, automated daily updates to maintain live segments. Over 1,000 records are processed via the integration every month, maintaining consistent donor profile data quality. And an estimated 5 hours are saved per email campaign they're sending that would otherwise be spent on exporting and cleaning the email list and importing that into MailChimp to update donor profiles. No integration is ever final, though, so we expect that these solutions will require tightening over time. We may want to pull over more donor data from eTapestry into MailChimp, or improve tag data quality in MailChimp with additional lookup tables or conditional logic. We also might want to set up automated reminders to update the scheduled report on an annual basis. But for now, these solutions are running smoothly and presenting real improvements for National Forest Foundation. And don't just take it from us. In the words of Jessica McCutcheon, Digital Marketing Manager at National Forest Foundation, this complex integration has allowed us to focus on enhancing our digital marketing and our overall donor experience. We are now positioned to deliver segment-specific content to our mailing list. Sidekick's expertise in eTapestry integration was impressive and made our complex project seem simple. When we have had issues with the integration, Sidekick was able to promptly fix the error. In fact, they identified and set out to resolve the error before I even realized it had occurred. Sidekick has advanced a time-saving solution that will continue to pay dividends and enhance donor stewardship for our organization. So thanks for watching today. If you have a similar automation goal to National Forest Foundation or maybe similar challenges, let's find some time to connect. We'd love to learn more about your organization, your challenges, the tools you're using to support your daily processes. So send us an email at info@sidekicksolutionsllc.com. Our door is always open. Thanks.